Oh, sing it for me, Smokey. This is one of those mornings where I wish we could just let the whole song... Like, what was I doing getting into talk radio anyway? Why don't I just play music? Like, this was the thing when you get into radio, right? I'm going to sit around. I'm going to play music all day. No, not on this place. But we'll give you a little bit of Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, who began on this day in 1970, 54 years ago, a 2-week run at number one on the U.S. singles chart with that song, of course, Tears of a Clown, written, in case you didn't know, by Stevie Wonder. It is 6 minutes after 9 on this Thursday morning. And by the way, I was merely saying that in jest. I was being facetious. Honestly, I don't want to sit around and play music all day. I love music, don't get me wrong, and there's a time for music, but I want to be here having these conversations with you every day. Because if I was working at a radio station where we played as much music as possible, how on earth could I get up onto my little soapbox here? And believe you me, for a person of my stature, it's an effort to get onto the soapbox, but I get onto it every day, and it provides me the opportunity to sit here and say, what in H-E double hockey sticks are we doing with the school buses? I'm looking out my window right now. Are you looking out your window right now? Have you seen the sun this morning? I got it. It's the bus drivers forgot their sunglasses. They should be company issue, right? And I shouldn't malign the poor bus drivers. This is not on them. This is among the most ridiculous decisions I have ever heard in my life of winters. Like, this is... What did we cancel the buses for? There are two things that I really struggle with, aside from the enormous embarrassment that comes with the decision. Like, is Bart Simpson running the show here? Like, I have a feeling it's a precocious little preteen that is making the decisions as to whether or not to operate the school buses because they just, it's close to Christmas. Who wants to have a school day? Oh, yeah, I know, schools are open, but we all know what happens when the bus kids don't show up. Like, come on with your coming on here. So I can just see little Bart Simpson there pushing the button to say, school buses canceled today. Let's do it. You know what? You might as well preemptively cancel them for tomorrow, too, because why send the kids to school on Friday? Is it going to be -4 tomorrow? Like, I think we're canceling the buses when it's below 0. Is that what we're doing? Good grievous. Third time, and it's not even officially winter yet. Let that sink in. Anyway, there are two things that truly, embarrassment aside, that stand out to me about this are as follows. Number one is, I've said this before, I will say it again. I'll keep saying it until they take my microphone away. We are sending the wrong message about the importance of going to school. Oh, it's too cold, it's too windy, it's too sunny, whatever. Oh, that school bus is canceled. Don't worry about it. No, that's actually not the way that it works, because someday, presumably, you will arrive at a place in your life where no matter the weather, far worse days than today, you got to get up and go to work, because otherwise you're not putting food on your table. So let's just consider that message. Maybe you think that's a little bit hyperbolic. That's fine. You can think that way. But I do think about that. But the other thing, and this is far more relevant in my opinion, is we are saying, let's get this straight. It's unsafe for the buses to be on the road, but it's okay if you drive your kids to school. So let's take off the road a vehicle that can move dozens of people at a time and put more vehicles on the road that move fewer people at a time. Therefore, right, more money, more problems, more people, more problems, more vehicles, the greater the chance of collisions. But that's okay. We're going to put more vehicles on the street because these vehicles that carry dozens of people could not possibly be on the street today. Of the ridiculous decisions I have seen and or heard in my lifetime, this one takes the cake.
I've got 1, 2, 3.
And off we go with your Farwell Show 5 for a Thursday morning. Number 1. Oh, I think I already covered this, but you'd never know it by looking outside. But on a bright, albeit cold morning like this, school buses have been canceled in Waterloo region. I'm saying this just so it's on the record, so when they open the Mike Farwell Show time capsule someday, they'll realize what an embarrassment we were in this moment in time. Number 2 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, Regional Council spent more than 12 hours debating its budget yesterday, arriving at no conclusion. They'll go back at it next week. We will break down what we learned yesterday at 9:30 this morning. Number 3, the provincial government will introduce its bill today to clamp down on homeless encampments, giving municipalities and police services increased funding and, quote, enhanced legislative powers to deal with the crisis. Today is also the final day of sitting at Queen's Park before the Christmas break. Number 4 on your Farwell Show 5 today, Guelph City Council has voted unanimously to demolish a historical greenhouse at the University of Guelph. The vote came despite the objections of several residents who showed up to the meeting to voice their support of the Rutherford Conservatory building. Guelph Council says only the salvageable steel elements of the building should be listed as heritage attributes. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, Times Person of the Year is Donald J. Trump. The magazine's editor-in-chief, Sam Jacobs, made the announcement this morning.
I have to admit that this year was an easier decision than in years past. And what we saw from when we spoke to him in the spring to now is someone who's maybe a little lower volume, a little more subdued. For Donald Trump, perhaps a little bit reflective.
And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Thursday morning, the 12th of December, less than 2 weeks until Christmas. And as you heard in the 9 a.m. update with Mark Douglas, you ain't getting no mail. You ain't getting no packages. Canada Post could not possibly get everything sorted and caught up and out the door and into your mailbox in time for the 25th. We talked about the ongoing Canada Post strike on the show yesterday, and I received an excellent email later in the day from somebody who I appreciate because he did not CWA, call while angry. Although, as you probably know, calling while angry can be rather entertaining, but this gentleman decided to not CWA and instead sent a reflective and I thought rather poignant email later on. He says he stands up for the working man. And you'll get to hear what he had to say right after this on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio. Like, is there a new school bus deal being worked out between our transportation services and our school boards? Maybe that's what they're doing. They're getting leverage. We can't drive. We can't drive when it's so sunny. Oh, look out. We can't drive when it's too cold. We can't drive when there's snow on the ground. We just can't drive. We need better working conditions. On that note, we talked yesterday about the ongoing Canada Post strike. And needless to say, I think I could sum up by saying not a whole lot of sympathy for the posties. Received an email later on yesterday afternoon. And when I read it, I thought, Braden makes some really interesting points here. And so I thanked Braden for his email and said, I'm going to read that on the show because it's the other side of the coin, if you will. So again, not a lot of sympathy for the posties yesterday. Here's what Braden had to write to Mike at 570news.com. Good afternoon, Mike. I was listening to your show this morning and I wanted to call in while I was driving into the office, but didn't feel like it would be safe to do so since the topic was making me so, quote, ding-dang mad. Excellent use of ding-dang. First of all, an important part of the narrative about this strike, which I have heard repeated many times by the media, including yourself and Mr. Rob Snow, is that Canada Post keeps losing money and continues to be unprofitable, which is a fact I'm not disputing. Here's the thing, though, Braden writes. Canada Post's purpose is not to generate profit. It is not a for-profit business. It is our national mail delivery service. It fulfills an important function in our society. Documents like checks, passports, contracts, forms, invoices are delivered by Canada Post. That is its purpose. Not to make profit, but to deliver the ding-dang mail. Isn't it interesting that we never hear anyone say, hey, what's up with the Waterloo Regional Police Service? Always losing $20 or so million per year. Or how about the Ministry of Natural Resources, never making any kind of money whatsoever? Or maybe those firefighters should adapt their business model since they're never making any kind of profit, eh? The idea that every single enterprise in our society should only exist to make profit is completely unhinged. And here's another thing. Corporate profits, and here I don't mean for Canada Post, but just in general, are the highest they have ever been. So maybe we could, for example, stop giving millions of tax dollars to giant corporations like Suncor via subsidies, and then we could afford to have our mail delivered by people who make a living wage with decent benefits. I don't think what the postal workers are asking for is too much. I really don't. It's just the same situation as the Wilmot Township property tax proposal. The township didn't collect money they should have been collecting for 30 years so they could keep taxes low. And now they're way behind. It's the same thing with the postal workers. And with a whole swath of the working class in general, wages have been stagnant for 20 or 30 years. So when they ask for a 19% increase, maybe it sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. They're just trying to catch up with many years of stagnant wages all at once. I feel bad for the gentleman who called into your show and said he only got 16 hours per year of medical leave. That is absolutely criminal. That's not enough time in today's day and age to do anything at all. That ought to be illegal. Heaven forbid he experiences any kind of serious injury or illness. And yet, somehow, he doesn't support the Postal Workers Union, who's fighting to improve conditions for the working class. Almost like it was some kind of a badge of honor to say that he didn't have any kind of sick time. Every hour of sick time he doesn't get is an hour's worth of wages that someone else gets to pocket. And that's exactly how you end up with a small number of rich people that just keep getting richer, and a working class that gets less and less. Working people are my people. I support the postal workers' strike. Merry Christmas and kind regards, Braden. Some interesting points in there. I had not considered the fact that as a public service, why should we expect Canada Post to turn a profit? And there is no disputing the stagnation of wages and the increases of late to corporate profits. Another side of the coin, if you will, via email from Braden after we talked yesterday on the show about the ongoing postal workers strike, because Braden was too ding-dang angry to call when we were having the conversation. Some sober second thought from Senator, I will now call him, because he's in that chamber of sober second thought. Braden, your thoughts on Braden's thoughts? We love to hear from you on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio. 9:27, 3 minutes away from an update in the 570 News Center. Time, as always, to hear from you on the show. Let's go to the phones. Reza, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I just called regarding the email that you just read us.
Yes, from Braden, who says he supports the striking postal workers.
Yes. He had very interesting point. Quite honestly, I didn't consider those, and he does have a valid point. And so kudos to you, Braden. Thank you for enlightening us. I just wanted to add a couple of other things as well. As I was listening to you reading the email, I was thinking during COVID, when we were all stuck at home, there were certain people who were doing things in the front line. There were firefighters, there were people in the hospitals and grocery stores. I was still able to send mail because the postal service was working. And we keep forgetting these things, that these guys are part of the front line. And if they are asking for something in this magnitude, it's not asking for much because strikes are never free. There is a cost to them for this strike that they are currently paying. And I think as a community, as a country, we should be a little bit more understanding, and I hope the government actually chips in and let them have what they ask. There's no free lunch. They have to cut it somewhere, as Braden said. But I think the mismanage of money is exactly correct, and I really hope that happens to them. I just wanted to share the thought.
Thanks, Reza. Really appreciate that. And yes, Braden got us thinking about this in a different light, and he did make some excellent points. Paul, the last 60 seconds are yours.
Okay, you in the email he mentioned that the Canada Post is a Crown corporation and doesn't make money. Think about the city, the region. What's our annual budget for wages in the region? And when was the last time they generated any money?
So you're on Team Braden.
Yeah, you look at what the posties are asking for and trying to get, and then take a look at what a politician turns around and votes for himself for an increase in wages.
All right, Paul. Just remember, particularly municipally, the politicians are paid far less than the staff who do the work and deliver the services, just to keep that in mind. And usually there's an arm's length committee that votes on increases to politicians' salaries. But point taken. And now let's get you to the 570 News Center for an update. Following that, we'll look back at an interesting budget debate at Regional Council yesterday. A very frustrated Councillor Doug Craig. And I thought, because I dig the numbers, I liked what Councillor Barry Verbanovic was doing. You'll hear from them both next on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio. Yes, there is nothing like a 12-plus hour budget meeting to get your blood pumping, eh? And that's what our regional councillors got a dose of yesterday. And in the end, they decided they needed still more time. You heard that just now in Christine Clark's 9:30 update. Also of note, yes, excellent news for the Food Bank of Waterloo Region, getting a doubling of its annual funding. But remember, the Food Bank was seeking triple, more than $2 million in annual funding, just because of the incredible need that it is seeing day in and day out. However, getting this doubling of the funding is, I believe, an acknowledgement of two things. One, how ding-dang difficult it is out there right now for so many people, and the value for dollar that our regional government gets when providing funding to an organization like the Food Bank of Waterloo Region. So let's take you back into yesterday's budget deliberations, because a couple of things stood out to me. You'll hear from Councillor Barry Verbanovic, also, of course, the Mayor of Kitchener, in just a moment, because I really liked the way he dove into the numbers and found, I think, some areas where we might be able to find savings. And of course, Councillor Doug Craig, who was on the show with us yesterday and continuing to beat on that drum that says, hey, provincial government, you are asking too much of municipalities. You've got to come to the table here with a new deal. Here's a little bit of what Councillor Craig had to say.
Municipalities are constitutional orphans. We have no power. We could say anything we want to the provincial government, and they simply don't listen. In the new hospital that's coming up somewhere in the future, you better believe you're going to be asked to put money into it. And that's outside our responsibility. And it's no different also than other smaller things, like the GO station in Breslau. That's a provincial responsibility, but we're involved in that, and we shouldn't be. So it's a matter of looking at the community and the needs today. And it's a 7.7% unemployment rate in Cambridge, which concerns me in terms of what's going on. And I think we have to look at, across the board, the impact on people out in the street.
Couple of things from this. First of all, when it comes to what the community will be expected to provide for the new hospital, if I remember my numbers correctly, we're looking at about $5 billion for the hospital itself. And traditionally, communities, because you remember, like the province will build the hospital, will pay for the staff in the hospital. All of the equipment and everything else that goes into the hospital comes from the community, generous benefactors, etc. And that typically runs about 10% of the overall cost. So if it's a $5 billion project, we're talking $500 million we're going to be trying to collect in various ways through this community. So just as exciting as it is to have that hospital coming to the University of Waterloo's campus out there by Barringer Road, just remember the impact on the community and what I know we'll do it. I know we will, but Doug Craig is just kind of giving us a heads up that this is what's coming down the line. And of course, his other point on what municipalities do, maybe even in partnership with the province, but the funding that gets provided, the support that's given, it doesn't seem to be reciprocated, does it? And I might throw into that our phase 1 of light rail transit was a tri-level partnership, municipal, provincial, and federal government. Our municipality was on the hook for 1/3 of that. Actually, I think the province eventually came through with full 2/3, didn't they? Yeah, they did. Regardless, when the next phase of light rail comes along, brace yourself, because the upper levels of government should be funding that project if we ever get it off the ground. So I really like what Councillor Barry Verbanovic was focused on yesterday during the budget meeting, because I love me some numbers, but he took a really hard look at the numbers and thinks there might be a way for council to direct staff at our regional government to find some savings here.
In our budget books, there's 9 departmental areas that exist: community services, transportation, engineering and environmental, planning, development and legislative, public health and paramedics, elected offices, CAO, corporate services and human resources. I actually went and did an analysis of a number of expense areas. Supplies expense overall went up 5.7% in the organization, and ranging anywhere between 0% and 15.2% by department. Equipment went 26.2% overall. Facilities maintenance went up 32.2%. Professional fees and services went up 5.8% overall. Communications saw a 16.9% increase overall. Travel saw a 21.8% increase, and facility occupancy charges saw a 15.8% increase overall. All of that, when averaged out, came to 9.32%, or $17.2 million. That is significantly more than what inflation, even the 1 or the 2-year average is. And so what I've done is bring it down to 5%, which would ultimately give us a savings of $8 million and $8. And the whole point here is I'm not looking to go into the detail today, because we have professional staff who have a responsibility to do that, work through that, and so on. I'm simply saying this is the amount that we're going to reduce it by. This is what the motion says, and it'll be up to staff to figure out how they're going to make those adjustments within those categories.
You know what that reminds me of? When Doug Ford first came to office and he told municipalities and departments within the provincial government to find 4% savings, 4 cents on every dollar. I'm not sure it's been found, don't get me wrong, but this suggests to me of a direction from council to regional staff to say, hey, 5%, that's what the increase can or should be. Figure out how to get your numbers down to that 5%, which is a line of thinking that I can certainly get behind. Ultimately, unfortunately, yesterday, we ended a long day of budget deliberations in the same place we ended them last year, according to, well, not according to Doug Craig, according to me. We had this same discussion last year that the budget process needs to change because the last day is manic with all the different requests and all of the deliberations that basically should have been done ahead of time. Councillor Craig pulled the chute last night.
In my opinion, this is a very, very bad process. It's just creating chaos. I understand the enthusiasm to reduce the budget. I understand where Councillor Vrbanovich is going. I think that's important that we listen to him. All I've got is a bunch of numbers. I got a lot of abstract ideas floating around, and this is not how you do a budget properly. If we want to reduce and look into what Councillor Vrbanovich is saying, then we got to delay this process tonight, come back and do it properly. And this is not proper in my opinion. I can't support any of this at this hour, this process that has started at 9 o'clock this morning and is leaving a lot of us just quite stunned about what is happening at the last minute. And I would suggest strongly that we stop the meeting now and pick another date, come back, and staff would have an opportunity to give us a reasonable reply to what is going on. This is terrible. It really is, in my opinion.
Chaos. Terrible. And so council will go back at it in 1 week's time. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Waterloo Mayor Dorothy McCabe joins us to talk about four-storey fourplexes for her city. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio. As you may recall from the Farwell Show 5 yesterday morning, no, I'm already losing track of my time. My goodness, Tuesday morning. Waterloo Council had its meeting on Monday. They meet Mondays. Time just goes. It's almost Christmas. Forgive me, please. Anyway, at its meeting on Monday night, Waterloo Council approved four-storey fourplexes for neighborhoods across the community. Waterloo Mayor Dorothy McCabe makes time for our show this morning, even though Waterloo Mayor Dorothy McCabe, in her capacity as a regional councillor, was up well past her bedtime last night. I mean, maybe I shouldn't tell tales out of school. I don't know what time you go to bed, Mayor McCabe, but that was a late night.
Yes, it was. It was a late night and an early morning, but happy to be here. Happy to have you here with us, and thanks for making the time.
Why four-storey fourplexes across the city?
Well, there's a number of reasons, but I guess one of the main ones is to address the housing crisis and the affordability challenge that so many across Waterloo region, Ontario and beyond are facing. Quite frankly, 4 stories and 4 units. Really, this is what they call the missing middle, gentle density, gentle intensification. So this is the type of housing that, if you walk around neighborhoods in Waterloo, like older neighborhoods in Waterloo, you'll see this type of housing that's been in neighborhoods for years and years. You kind of miss it, I think, because it just blends in. It's been there so long. And so it's kind of going back to that, that style of housing as well.
Are there any restrictions around where or what I can build with those 4 stories?
Well, yeah, there's a variety of, zoning bylaws and things like that. But, for example, a 4-story would be permitted to a maximum building height of 13.5 meters. So that's a little bit tall. Well, it's a little bit taller than what's currently permitted, but, when we were talking about this on Monday night, staff showed us various pictures of places where these already exist in neighborhoods across Waterloo. And some of the delegates who were there, shared that when you look at the way some of these new housing units can be designed, they're kind of like the size of really, really big homes that some people have built. So anyway, your question was about restrictions. These will be permitted in most residential lots across Waterloo. But yeah, there is a building height restriction of 13.5 meters.
Do we have the infrastructure to support this intensification?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the really smart strategic things that Waterloo has done, and certainly I'm not taking credit for that. This is like council direction and staff based on staff's expertise for years now. I'd say like 15 plus years, is that Waterloo would maintain its countryside boundaries, but look to build inward and upward. So the sewer systems and the water systems and the roads and things like that kind of infrastructure, we have what we need to support this kind of gentle densification. Absolutely. I mean, we'll need to obviously there's more people coming to live in Waterloo. So things like parks, libraries, green space, things like that kind of infrastructure, we will need to find more places and build those kind of things. But in terms of like that hard infrastructure, if that's what you meant, we're in a really good shape now.
I did mean the hard infrastructure, but I'm glad you brought up those other parts too, because those are important elements to a city and a community for sure. So just so we're clear on this, Mayor McCabe, in many residential neighborhoods, a home could go up for sale, and then once that sale is finalized, the new owner could remove the existing single-family dwelling and replace it with a 13.5 meter high four-story fourplex. That could happen?
It could happen.
Yeah.
Yep, it could happen. And I mean, the people, I hope, keep in mind that, Waterloo a number of years ago approved through our official plan, we approved the ability to include triplexes and duplexes in a similar situation, what you just described. And there have been very, very few people who've taken us up on that offer. So if and when this does start to happen, it will be, and staff certainly spoke to this on Monday night, it will be very gradual and incremental. So I would say to people who may be concerned, don't expect, in the next year, a pile of single-family homes to come down and fourplexes to go up. Like, that's just kind of not the way that history has demonstrated that this kind of happens. It will be gradual. And part of this, for me, why I was supportive of this is during the campaign when you're door knocking and meeting all kinds of people, the number of times I heard from particularly seniors who live in neighborhoods across Waterloo that, I really, really like my neighborhood. I have friends here. I have, great space and things like that, but the home is too big for me now, but I want to stay here. And so this will really give them options if people choose to build this type of housing. This will give like a senior like that, instead of maybe having to buy a condo and go uptown, although that's a great option too, will give them the option of saying, oh, you know what, I could move into a smaller unit in my neighborhood and be able to stay there. So that's really, for me, why I thought that this is a really good way to go.
Mayor McCabe, appreciate your time on the show this morning. Thank you very much for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mike.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
All right. Happy holidays to
you
everyone.
Too. Bye-bye. Dorothy McCabe is the mayor of Waterloo. She kind of read my mind with that last question because I wanted it to be understood. Yes, a fourplex could go up on the lot next door to you in Waterloo. That's what these rules allow for. However, historically, uptake is very slow. So this will be incremental change at best. But if we could get into a time machine and look at the Waterloo and the Kitchener, frankly, because Kitchener has approved this as well, of 100 years from now, I would love to know what it is going to look like. But I've said many times, our neighborhoods are changing, though supply and demand is not the be-all and end-all of our housing crisis. It absolutely plays a part, and this is a way to obviously increase that supply. Waterloo approves four-story fourplexes at a maximum height of 13.5 meters on most residential lots in the city today. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio. Well, we talked earlier this half hour, or I shared some audio with you about deliberations around the regional council horseshoe when it comes to the budget. Remember, regionally, The budget started around 12%. They were just under 10% yesterday, working to whittle it down to a final number, who knows where. But they certainly didn't start at 51%, which is where Wilmot is starting. And we'll talk to a councillor in the township right after this update from the 570 News Centre. Stay with us on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio. I have certainly not been shy about sharing that opinion when it comes to the budget in Wilmot Township and the proposed 51% tax increase. That's the number the draft budget shows. And after a meeting of Wilmot Township Council earlier this week, the chief financial officer says, ain't no fat on this bone. There is nothing to be trimmed. Chris Wilkinson is the Ward 2 councillor in Wilmot Township. He joins us for a conversation this morning. So, Chris, let's start there. If indeed there is no fat on this bone, where do you, as a councillor, start to try to whittle down a 51% increase?
Thanks for the question, Mike. This is the topic, right? This is the big question. I think there's a few ways that we can approach this, right? There's a lot of factors that we need to consider as well when we're looking at the budget. I mean, a few things in the back of my mind is the cost of living crisis, a lot of residents on fixed income. This would require people to adjust budgets, even outside of just cost of living pressures. Not everybody got raises, and we also have to be careful and balance not to go too crazy on a tax increase, because we want to be able to attract businesses and households to make sure that we've got people living here and paying that tax base. And if we price ourselves out, then it could get worse. So I'm very cognizant of wanting to make sure that everybody gets value and can stay here in the township. So this is the staff's proposed budget. Let me be very clear. Council didn't sit down and develop this. Staff brought this forward, and it's certainly a massive shock to myself and everyone in the town. When I look at this, and we hear that there's no fat on the budget, I don't necessarily believe that to be entirely true. And I'm not calling my staff a liar. I think they do a good job, but I think we need to have a new perspective, and we need to get back to basics. We provide fire protection, water delivery, building and planning services, road maintenance, road building, recreation, right? Those are our core services, and I want to make sure that we excel at those services that benefit the vast majority of the people that live here. But it's those extras that we need to look at and maybe start asking ourselves the tough questions. Do we need to maybe cut this? Is there a program here that we're spending a lot of money on that has very little impact in the community? So I'd personally like to see a budget that maybe looks at a 10% reduction in our 2024 operating numbers and still look at a 5% increase in the tax levy. And that would include potentially cutting programs, potentially looking at some staff reductions. And I hate saying that, but this is the reality we face right now. It probably means looking at wage freezes as well for the foreseeable future. And a plan like that would allow us to put more money away to address our capital programs, because we're reducing spending, but also increasing revenue. And we have some hard work ahead of us in looking at this with a fine-tooth comb. But it starts with being able to effectively evaluate and cost all of our programs and service offerings. And until council can get those tools, and this is something I was asking for on Monday, until we can get those tools, we can't realistically make those evaluations.
So one of the things, Chris, that I think somebody would say immediately, if we're talking about wage freezes, for example, that it's going to make Wilmot Township an unattractive place to work. Therefore, you won't be able to hire or keep the skilled staff that you're going to need to figure out a way out of this budget crisis.
Sure, and that's a fair point. And I will look back at the way that we've done things over the last number of years. Last year our staff were actually given quite a nice wage adjustment. If people are unfamiliar with how we do things in the public sector, differs a lot from the private sector in the sense that they're offered wage grids and potentially have some some baked-in raises. So we're not saying that all those things are going to go away, but I think we've done a great job over the last number of years of making our township an attractive place to work in terms of wages and perks. Right? We have a lot of great extended perks that a lot of folks in the private sector aren't privy to. We don't necessarily all have great pensions or flexibility in work environment. And, I think there's a lot of things here that can make this a very attractive place to work. You just really have to dig deep, and we have to look at all avenues to reduce spending. Hopefully we don't have to get to that point. So I don't want everyone to take that as shock. And obviously I'm one of 6 votes when it comes to the decisions we make as council. But, this is the avenue I think we need to go down.
Are you able to give us a sense of how we got here? Because this number just it's astronomical, quite frankly, Chris, that we're talking a 51% municipal tax increase. How did we get here?
You're absolutely right. Well, my colleague Harvier Sadu from Ward 3 actually is looking to bring forward a motion, and it's sort of, he put it out there, and I think he's asking the right questions in terms of historical practices. I can provide maybe just a brief overview. And I mean, this council has been very consistent in asking for greater transparency in the budgeting process. And I feel like we finally brought to light some of the deficiencies in our reserves and planning. If I have to summarize and maybe provide just a very brief overview without digging into detail, I think there was artificially low taxes passed over the last 20 years, some of them being 0% increases, some of them being below inflationary spending or inflationary pressures, excuse me. At the same time, we also spent some money over the last 20 years building a rec center, investing in other projects, and not necessarily financing those in a way that other businesses or even households may look at doing those projects. So we're in a situation where I think over time it's just been compounded that we didn't necessarily raise taxes enough, and our reserves dwindled and helped pay for some of those missteps and decisions over time. Now we're here with obviously an infrastructure that needs attention and a lack of reserves in order to address some of those sore spots. So we need to dig into what our capital plan is and our spending plan moving forward, and we need to be realistic, right? That may include making some tough decisions, like not always replacing equipment at end of life, and potentially so looking at tax increases over a number of years, but not doing this in one shock to say, hey, 51%, but rather do we look at a consistent, regular 5% over a number of years? Is it going to take 5-7 years to achieve it? I don't know, but it's really tough to point a finger at any individual, but it's just been a long-standing issue that's been compounded and gotten worse over time.
In conversation with Chris Wilkinson, Ward 2 councillor in Wilmot Township. We got to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation, obviously, because it's such a big conversation. And I want to know if there's any hope, if Councillor Wilkinson can offer you any optimism that this number will, of course, not stay at almost 51%, right? And I don't even think it should stay at 40 or 30%. So let's find out if there's a silver lining out there for you as a resident of Wilmot Township as we continue on the Mike Farwell Show this morning. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. We continue our conversation this morning with Chris Wilkinson, who's the Ward 2 councillor in Wilmot Township, one of those township councillors that is staring down a proposed 51% tax increase in this year's proposed budget. Anybody who has followed municipal budgeting over the years, Chris, I think recognizes that we start at a number in a draft budget and then that number gets whittled down. Again, those starting points are almost always far lower than where you're at 51%. Can you offer any reassurances to residents of Wilmot Township that the number will come down to something more realistic, more affordable for them?
Well, Mike, I'm hopeful that we can do that. I can't speak for my colleagues here, and this is where the public has to come in, right? I need the residents of Wilmot to engage with us and my peers, and that means emailing questions and comments to budget@wilmot.ca, registering as a delegation for the January 7th council meeting, reaching out to individual councillors, including myself, attend one of the town hall meetings that my peers and I are hosting, and have your voice heard. And we need to hear from you, and we need to hear creative ideas. We have a lot of great people in our town that can bring forward some ideas and some suggestions as to some areas where we may be able to trim. And then we can potentially look at bringing this down. My hope is, and I can speak for my own personal opinion, what I'm hearing from residents and what I personally as a taxpayer would like to see, I want to see us reduce this down as much as humanly possible. And I come back to my philosophy is to get back to basics, look at a 10% reduction in our 2024 operating budget, and then work off that number and still look at maybe a 5% increase in taxes. And that might help us course correct. But again, that's my hope. When I look at 51, I mean, if that number, and I don't mind saying it here, if that number doesn't move, I am opposed to this in every possible form.
You mentioned those town halls. I know there's one coming up on Saturday. Is that yours or one of your colleagues?
That is mine.
That is yours.
Yeah, and it was initially born of the idea that I have some residents and some pressing issues in Ward 2 that wanted to discuss the Petersburg water distribution system, a couple other issues that were coming forth as well. Wanted to discuss those, but then when I started looking at timing, I said, the budget's coming out actually in and around that time as well. So maybe a good idea to bring that topic forward. Then after putting forth the idea of hosting the town hall, the budget was released. So it was just pure coincidence that the timing there lined up. But, I think it's an important tool for us to engage with citizens. And I do look forward to seeing everybody out there. So it's Saturday at the San Angelo Community Center, running from 10 a.m. to noon. And not just for residents of Ward 2. I absolutely welcome folks from other wards throughout the township. If this is a time that they can make, please come and voice your concerns. I certainly welcome it, but I will be discussing other topics as well, but I assume budget will probably take a seat front and center at some point.
And I suspect you will be very busy during your time at this town hall. Before I let you go, Chris, I wonder if it has crossed your mind at all, or the idea of becoming a quote-unquote willing host has crossed your mind in all of this. I mean, an industrial mega site would certainly do some wonders for the municipal tax roll in Wilmot Township. Has that crossed your mind through all of this?
Mike, that topic obviously is still sitting there in the back of our heads, and I will suggest that your best course of action to uncover any more information on that is to direct it to the regional council. Certainly, if you look at just basics in terms of how tax levies work, anytime we can bring a business into town, it helps our bottom line in generating revenue. But I'm not focused on that right now. That's not a project that Wilmot Council really, truly has any involvement in.
Really appreciate you making time on this important issue this morning, Chris. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate your time. Have a great rest of your day and stay warm.
Chris Wilkinson is Ward 2 councillor in Wilmot Township and makes it pretty clear. If this number at almost 51% does not move, he will be opposed to this budget in every way. I'll say again, I think the only way forward in this, and Chris alluded to it in that conversation, is some sort of special levy added per year over a great number of years. Like, I'm starting at 2.5% over 20 years because I don't think you can put all of this, as dire as the picture is, I don't think you can put all of this on the residents of Wilmot Township today. We didn't get here overnight. So anybody relatively new to the township was not party to bringing us to this point. I don't think you can heap it on all of them at one time. But that's just my take. You've heard Councillor Wilkinson's take. We always like to hear yours, and you can give us a call and let us know on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. A 51% tax increase? Surely you jest, Wilmot Township. Let's go to the phones, hear from you on this story. Robert, good morning.
Good morning. I just had to call in when I was listening to this. Whenever it's about money, my blood starts boiling. And anyways, when you're talking about an unprecedented, massive potential raise of 51%, in my mind, there's only one way to go forward. You have to put it to the people. You have to have some kind of way that they can decide, okay, these are all the services we're getting for 51% increase. Then these are the services you're getting for this amount of increase. And you have to let people pick. And that way, the politician is not on the hook for making this big tax raise because the people chose it. That, to me, is the only logical way to proceed.
Interesting idea. I mean, I think it would be a logistical nightmare, but I get where you are coming from at the root of it all, for sure. Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. I live in Huron-Kinloss Township in Bruce County, and they have a rather unique way of doing things. It's only the population of this township is only 8,000 people, right? So when a road is paved, when we have new drainage systems or whatever we need, or a new water tower, what they do is they issue a municipal bond, and then you're expected as part of this to kick in a bit. And what they usually do is they add a temporary levy over 8 to 10 years, and then you pay for it off over 8 to 10 years, and then it comes off your property tax. Because in a township of 8,000 people, they don't have the capital budget and they don't have the resources to pay for that. So they do it through municipal bonds, and they also do it through some special levies. Now, the other problem with this whole thing, too, you're talking about all these budgets here. 58%, you're hearing like 6.1% from Waterloo, and they think they did a good job. And then you hear, the region of Waterloo. May I suggest to my humble counselors that you set a target, and it's not double digit, before these guys the staff even come to your table.
I think that's a great idea, Mike, and I'm sorry, I've got to run to get to news on time and then move on to our living retired conversation this morning, but I'm not sure why we don't do it that way. 3.5%, 4.5%, whatever that number is, set it, and then have staff come back with a budget that meets that target. Sounds pretty simple to me. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Hookah chaka, hookah, hookah, hookah chaka, hookah, hookah, hookah chaka, hookah, hookah, hookah chaka, hookah, hookah. I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me. Girl, you just don't realize what you do to me. When you hold me in your arms so tight, you let me know everything's alright. I'm hooked on a feeling. I'm high on believing that you're in love with me. Lips as sweet as candy, its taste is on my mind. Girl, you got me thirsty for another cup of wine. Got a bug from you, girl, but I don't need no cure. I just stay a victim if I can for sure. All the good love
Well, that took longer than it should have, but we have connected. Gary, do we need to get you a new phone for Christmas? Is that what I'm learning here this morning?
Well, that's not a bad idea. I mean, you got to remember, I live in the telephone city. We invented the phone. I still have a phone line. That's a landline. And for those people who don't know what a landline is, maybe they should look it up in a dictionary. Or better yet, look it up in Wikipedia.
Well, listen, we canceled school buses in Waterloo region this morning because I think the reason is it's too sunny. We might as well have trouble with phone lines in the famous telephone city of Brantford. Always good to talk to you, Gary. Good morning.
Good morning, Mike with a mic.
We are getting closer and closer. Dare I say, if we started tonight singing the 12 Days of Christmas, we could buy every gift in time for Christmas Day.
Well, that would be an exaggeration, but then again, maybe the Leafs will win the Stanley Cup this year.
Easy now, easy there.
Hey, the rush is on. There's 12 days till Christmas Eve to, effectively get things done. You got to get your shopping done, the baking done, finish the decorating, get to your child or grandchild's Christmas concert, and, of course, the other tradition, go to your neighbor's annual open house and stand in your stocking feet at their kitchen island, scarfing down shrimp and spilling shrimp sauce all down your shirt. That's what. And there's another thing. Why, Mike? We always get sick at this time of year.
Don't say it, Gary, please. We had 3 people down in the newsroom on Monday. I am terrified. I'm terrified of, because I'm counting down the days, 5 for me, including the 4 next week that I'll be doing before I'm off on Friday. And then I'm out of here for the holidays. I need to escape without catching a virus.
And the thing is, Mike, you need to be fresh and healthy so you can get your Christmas shopping done. Have you got my gift?
Of course not. Gary, do I have any gifts is the easier question for me to answer.
Yes, it's probably, I'm sure your wife is like mine. They do all the shopping, and I just come along the last minute and sign the gift tag.
Yes, I usually...
I better put Jan's name on it, too.
Yeah, there's usually a little assembly line of things for me to sign and or tape shut before it's done. Yeah.
That's right. And really, if you are looking for a gift for me, Mike, really, I'm an easy guy to buy for. Nothing gives me more pleasure on Christmas Day sitting in my corner of the living room. And if you give me a roll of bubble wrap, I can amuse myself for hours just popping all those bubbles.
I'm going to remember that. I might just send some over with what's left over after we unwrap gifts at our house.
Oh, my God. And, of course, it's not too late to get your Christmas tree. If there's one thing that gets visions of sugar plums dancing through my head, it's traipsing with the family through the woods and chopping down a Christmas tree.
It's a family tradition.
Well, I know, but, you end up with you're looking for a tree with a bare spot the size of the yard, and you got to have a crooked trunk that's like maybe King Street when they were building the Ion. And the tree's got to be 20 foot tall, so it'll fit in your 9-foot ceiling living room.
That's very Clark Griswold of you, Gary.
Oh, I tell you. Of course, the tradition in the Chalk household, when Tyler was young, we always went into the country to cut our own tree to a place that was called the Cut Your Own Christmas Tree and Fingers Farm.
I hope at least "and fingers" was a parenthetical reference. They put that in brackets, right?
Well, they may have, but I didn't see it. I know that. You walk through, and my job is to drag the toboggan through the Cut Your Own Christmas Tree and Fingers Farm. There's no snow; it's all mud, right?
Of course.
Jan's job, she is to make a thermos of blistering volcano hot chocolate. Guaranteed to produce 3rd-degree burns. I don't know why, but that's how you serve hot chocolate. And the thing is, after you traipse for, I don't know how long, from one end to the other end and back through the Cut Your Own Christmas Tree and Fingers Farm, you finally agree on the tree that you're going to chop down. It's the first one you saw when you started.
It should have been love at first sight. Dance with the girl you brung, Gary. I say it all the time.
And, of course, you got the family dogs. As soon as you pick out that tree, first thing the dog does is pee in the tree. And this is the one you're going to bring home and put in your living room.
Well, at least the territory's already been marked, so the dog doesn't have to do it again, right?
That's true. But, of course, the other thing is if you've got your young child, a 4-year-old with you, or your grandchild, first thing they then is scream, "Hey, I have to pee too." And they're dressed up like the Michelin Man, and you're still out in the woods. It's traditions of Christmas. You know, like I said, we've got 12 days to get everything done. Mike, it's enough to make your turtle dove dump all over your holidays. It causes a lot of stress. You know, all I can say is relax and do some calming, deep breathing exercises and grab your iPhone and text OMG to your followers. That'll make you feel better doing something constructive.
It's funny. A buddy of mine describes it as self-medicating, and I am not shy, no matter the time of day, because it's holiday time, Gary. I'll just open the fridge and crack a can of my favorite and just relax a little bit.
Oh, it is, you know, and of course the time, we're down to the short stroke, so it's when I call gift shopping and gift shipping. You got to do it. You got to multitask now. So let's imagine you have a gift you've purchased. You need to ship it to a faraway location. You know, I'm thinking maybe the house on the other side of the street around the corner. So, well, it's already too late. We know Canada Post is in strike. And the cutoff date for what they call, not Canada Post, but all these other shippers, called guaranteed local delivery, which is also known as good luck dummy. The cutoff date was last Christmas. So it's not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen. You know, it really, the small parcel shipping is just a ticket for, I think, for having fun. You know, getting a bottle of Elmira maple syrup or a bottle of wine and sending it, something fragile, to people that you like. Because what you got to do is you got to have that sturdy cardboard box that you put the gift in. You need a roll or two of that clear, sticky packing tape. You know that type when you rip it off the roll and then you have to try to rip it off with your teeth. Immediately, the cat hears that and hightails it to the next county. So that's what happens. And the other thing you got to have, Mike, is a minimum 4 dump truck load sizes of small white foam chips.
Oh, see, I thought you were going to put some bubble wrap in there to entertain the friends that got the fragile gifts.
Well, let's put it this way. Gary Griswold is not a person that likes to think of himself, only my friends. So I like to send them foam chips.
I like it.
Because the real purpose of foam chips is to create static electricity when they open the gift. And if you do it right, Mike, and I've practiced, I've got it down to a science here, I can cram a gazillion foam chips into the shipping box. And then when my poor sap at the other end opens the gift, there's this massive explosion. It's like a Scud missile hitting the family room. Foam chips are stuck to everything, the dog, the carpet, your hands, every conceivable part of your body. And you know what? You can't flick them off.
Remind me to not ask you for a gift ever. I'll tell you what, that's my least favorite thing, those foam chips, my least favorite.
I think what they should have as a benefit to even make them more stickable and not be able to get them off is have foam chips that have Gorilla Glue on the backside of them. Oh, wait, they already do.
Gary Chalk is the author of the humor column Living Retired. You can find it online at livingretired.press. And Gary joins us every Thursday morning here on the program to bring the column to life. You know, it's not just 12 days till Christmas. There are the Living Retired 12 words of Christmas as well, and we'll learn what they are coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Living Retired is a humor column written by Gary Chalk. You can find it online at livingretired.press. And while you're there, you can sign up for the weekly newsletter. The column will be delivered directly into your inbox because, let's face it, along with Canada Post, when it is delivering, we want more than just junk mail, right? You want more than just memos from the boss and random Nigerian princes soliciting money from you in your inbox. So get a little chuckle with the Living Retired column, livingretired.press. And Gary joins us on the show every Thursday morning at 10:30 to bring the column to life. So we have trudged through the mud to cut down our very own Christmas tree and hope we kept our fingers in the process. We have shopped and we have shipped. And now, Gary, we move on to the Living Retired 12 words of Christmas.
Yes, this is a tradition. It's all about tradition at this time of year, right?
Yeah.
You lose your mitts, you buy a new shovel. And so the other tradition, I've been writing Living Retired for 10 years now. And so I have developed what I call the Living Retired 12 words of Christmas.
Okay.
Instead of the 12 days of Christmas, it's the 12 words of Christmas. And what I do, Mike, is I write a number of these, and I put them out so that for different people, some of these will have different meanings, and they may want to adopt them for their Christmas greeting. So, and all of these are in 12 words. So each one of these greetings say Merry Christmas in 12 words. So if you're a husband, you could say, Merry Christmas. I'm in the hospital. I slipped on the decorator pillows.
I love how the decorator pillows are a running theme with your work, Gary.
Well, it also expands. Merry Christmas, for sale. Decorator hand towels and hand soaps, never used.
Absolutely. Put them up on Facebook Marketplace.
Or the last one in this category for husbands is Merry Christmas. I accidentally used the decorator towels. Afraid to tell Jan.
They're just decorator towels, Gary.
That's what they are. Now, there's always the tradition of cooking your turkey. So you could say, hello, Butterball Turkey Hotline. Can you thaw a turkey in an hour?
In an hour, yeah. That's the emergency line. I think you want 911. No, wait, don't do that. Don't do that. No.
Or Merry Christmas. My husband's carving the turkey. Cover the grandchildren's ears.
No. You know what? You should. That's your gift to them. Teach them some new words, some colorful language.
Yeah. Oh, I'm telling you, there are a couple of 12-word Christmas greetings for those who have decorated and installed the lights. Merry Christmas. 15 strings of lights plugged in one outlet. Holy smoke.
Literally.
Yes. Or, Merry Christmas, dear. The lights just dimmed upstairs. What have you done? Or this one is for the women. Women, there's a tradition. Work with me. She could say, Merry Christmas. My husband bought all my gifts at Victoria's Secret. OMG.
I'm not going to touch that one with a 10-foot credit card, Gary.
Or this one, Merry Christmas, dear. What made you think I could fit into this? To which your husband could say, Merry Christmas, honey. Please try it on to see if it fits.
Have you ever noticed that I feel as though my beloved, and I don't know if Jan is this way too, but I think she's optimistic when she buys something for me by size. Because it inevitably is a little snugger than perhaps it should be.
I think that's a hint.
He's going to lose the weight in the new year.
Famous last words.
Exactly. I'll start in January.
Right. Some people like to change their voicemail message on their phone, so when you call, it's not the same thing. Leave a message and I'll call you back. So here's one you could use at this time of year. You could say on your voicemail message, you could say, Merry Christmas. Leave your voicemail message. Stuff your wassail up your wazoo.
I like that. You know what? Could I just use that year round? I might.
Or is this one, Merry Christmas, or last year at this house, neighbor's kid learning bagpipes.
Real estate agents, please apply.
That's right. And I've also have 3 or 4 here for you. These are exclusive to the Mike Farwell Show.
Okay.
12-word Christmas greetings from Mike Farwell. Here's the first. Merry Christmas from Mike Farwell. Butter tarts, no raisins, please and thanks.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Now there's another 2 that these ring true with your show. Merry Christmas from Mike. What in HELL hockey sticks?
That should be on a T-shirt somewhere.
Along with, Merry Christmas from Mike Farwell Show. Get on with your comings on.
We got no time for the jibber jab around here, Gary. We got to go. Come on with your coming on.
You got it. And then finally, the 12-word Christmas greeting that everyone can use at this time of year. Merry Christmas. I'm throwing up, coughing, sneezing, aches and pains. Happy holidays.
Nothing says the holidays like the flu bug going through the home. Gary, it's always fun. Hey, we've got one more of these before the holidays, but you get back to work now and make sure you're ready to go by the time we chat next week.
Well, it says on my landline display, it says check phone cord. And again, for your younger listeners, look up phone cord in the dictionary, but first look up dictionary in Wikipedia.
I think you'll figure it out, my friend. Have a great week.
Enjoy yourself, Mike.
Gary Chalk is the author of Living Retired. It's a humor column you can find online at livingretired.press. And while you're there, sign up for the weekly newsletter. The column will be delivered directly to your inbox. Gary joins us on the show for Living Retired every Thursday morning at 10:30. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Have you heard about Waterloo's Geo-Time Trail? What it's all about, how it got started, the current state of repair that it is in. I remember discussing this several years back and figured, you know what? It's time for an update, because why not get a sense of the city's geological past as we take a walk along this particular trail? We will learn all about it immediately following this update from the 570 News Center. Stay with us here on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers. Well, Waterloo's Geo-Time Trail has fallen into a state of repair that, let's say, could use a little bit of freshening up or sprucing up. What is the Geo-Time Trail, you ask? I'm glad you asked that question, because we're going to learn more about it with our next guest, who is Alan Morgan, a professor emeritus of quaternary geology and paleontology at the University of Waterloo. Alan, good morning.
Good morning.
What is the Geo-Time Trail?
Well, the Geo-Time Trail was established in the hope that people would realize the immensity of geological time. It's very difficult when you're dealing with physics, for example, and they talk about objects which are light years away. People really can't comprehend that properly. The Geo-Time Trail is set up to be approximately 4.5 kilometers long, which represents the age of the Earth in millions of years, 4,500 million years old. But that thing I think we would like to bring home to people who walk the trail is that every 5 centimeters that you walk of a 4.3 kilometer trail represents 5,000 years of real time.
It's incredible to me when you put it in those terms, because essentially most of us can walk about that distance in roughly an hour. So in that time, we can walk and discover or learn about the entire life of this planet, those 4,500 million years.
Yes, that's correct.
How did this idea come to be?
Well, there have been various ways that people have tried to demonstrate the length of geological time. School children, for example, have unrolled toilet rolls along school corridors and marked them off in different intervals. But I think when you're actually physically walking close to 4.5 kilometers, and every millimeter you cross represents 1,000 years of real time, that it does bring home the immensity of time.
So where is this trail? Where can we experience it?
The trail can be accessed off Sundew, which is the new development on the west side of Waterloo. There is a small parking lot there that's capable of taking, I'm guessing, 15 to 20 cars. And there's other parking close by, so it's fairly easy to access. And since the trail is a loop trail, you'll end up back where you started from.
So it's a perfect spot to go. If you have to drive to get there, park, do the loop, and you're right back to your starting point.
Yes, that's correct. There are a number of access points that you can make to the trail, but of course you'll be breaking in somewhere along that 4,500 million years of time. Although in many ways that would not be too bad, because each sign is marked as to the age of the sign, or the representative age of the sign, and that also reflects in kilometers. So if you come to a trail sign that says 600 million years for the Cambrian period, then basically you're 600 meters from the end of the trail.
So you have touched on something here that I find really interesting, and it's a little bit more challenging because we're on the radio talking about it. But what do these signs, what do these waypoints look like along the trail? When we're on the Geo-Time Trail, what will we see?
Well, each sign, and there are 18 of them, represent a certain portion of geological time. So the very first sign that you start at is at 4,000 million years, 4 billion years, and it represents both the start and really the end of the trail. The sign itself is mounted on a steel post. It's approximately a couple of feet across and maybe 1.5 feet deep. And on that sign, there is a representation of the where the sign is located in terms of geological time and, of course, in terms of distance as well as some scientific facts about that particular portion of geological time. So you'd have to get into the time range of somewhere around 200 million years to see the dinosaurs appearing and various other things at that point in time.
So when we are standing at that point, Alan, on the Geo-Time Trail, are we in that same place where those dinosaurs may have been roaming all those years ago?
Only in a theoretical sense. We only have a short block of time that's represented by the rocks underneath Waterloo County. It probably extends back a little over 1 billion years. If you go 800 meters down, vertically down under your feet at that point in time, in where the geological time trail is, you are in what is called the Silurian period. And the Silurian period represents a block of time where the rocks were first identified in Wales. Many people don't realize the naming of the geological column, but the Cambrian is named after Wales, which is where I come from originally, from Cambria, the Roman name for Wales. And then there is after the Cambrian, we come into the Ordovician period, which is the tribe of people that lived in North Wales, and then the Silurian people, which was named after a tribe of people who lived in South Wales. And then you come to the Devonian, which is named after the county of Devon in southwestern England, and so on. The Permian, for example, is named after the Perm region of Russia. And each geological period has a specific name and a time frame, which is now pretty well known, that is named from a certain characteristic of that period.
What inspired you to create this trail?
Well, I started, I guess, being interested in geology when I was 8 years old. I was playing a game of hide and seek with my brother, crawled underneath a blackberry bush in South Wales in a small allotment opposite my home, and resting on the ground underneath was a very large snail. And I poked it, and it rolled over, and I forgot all about hiding from my brother that I was playing with, rushed home with this object in my hand and said to my mother, "Look, I found a snail made out of concrete." And she more or less said, "Idiot, son, that's a fossil." She had been brought up in the South Wales Rhondda region, so she was used to various coal fossils that have been found in the rocks underneath the mining area. And we went into the National Museum, and from that point on, I was hooked on geology. So it started at the age of 8.
Amazing. Alan Morgan in studio with us, Professor Emeritus from the University of Waterloo. The Geo-Time Trail, which we're learning more about, and we want to ensure its future here in the community. Stay with us as we continue the conversation this morning on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. In studio this morning with Alan Morgan, who's a professor emeritus from the University of Waterloo in quaternary geology and paleontology, and the creator of our Geo-Time Trail in the city of Waterloo. What state is the trail in today? Because I remember talking about this many years ago on the show, Alan. Where are we at today when it comes to the upkeep and maintenance of the Geo-Time Trail?
Well, unfortunately, the trail has fallen into some degree of disrepair. Some of it is natural, in that some of the signs were placed in the wrong position, so they become sun-bleached. That is just an unfortunate accident in the positioning of the signs. I wasn't around when the signs were put in. I was at a conference in Europe, as things should be. The signs that were placed in the right position, that was facing north rather than south, have weathered very, very well. And the ones that are in the woodland are in fairly good condition. But even those have suffered as a result of vandalism. So people have scratched the faces of the signs, they've burned them with butane torches, they've taken heavy mauls and smashed them, and one of them has even completely disappeared. So somebody has physically pushed this thing out of the ground and either carried it off or thrown it in the lake or something like that. There are several stormwater ponds around in that area. So the state of disrepair of the signs is very obvious. And unfortunately, I think, as far as I'm concerned, it's taken away the ability for people to even read them properly. The city, however, I met with the city yesterday, and they seem to be conducive to dealing with the replacement of some of these signs or the renovation thereof. Two of the signs are talking signs, or were talking signs, where you could push a button and there was a small discourse on what you would see at that point in time.
Fascinating to me that this exists in the city of Waterloo. Do we know how well used it has been over the years?
It's difficult to judge. Obviously, the area has built up significantly over the course of the last 20 years. The original proposals to the council were made in 2003, and the signs were first put in 2007. And then a second batch of signs were put in about 2011. So the population of the area around the Geo-Time Trail has grown significantly in that point in time. And there are, I would estimate, at least several hundred, if not more than that, people using it on a regular basis almost, I won't say every day, but certainly over periods of time.
The opportunity to use such a trail merely to be outdoors is one thing, and we have many such trails around, but I think of the educational aspect of this as well. What did you envision, Alan, when this trail was created?
Well, I had hoped that there would be groups of people, for example, from the University of Waterloo, or people from some of the senior high schools doing the Earth and Space Sciences stream, that would, in fact, use this as an exercise to try to show the students the immensity of time. I'm sure that most people that walk the trail probably glance at the signs once or twice and then more or less ignore them from that point on. But as you said, it certainly is a nice place to walk. And over the course of the last month, I've taken two groups out there to walk, one from Guelph and one from Waterloo, actually retirees from the university. And it was as a result of their prompting that this interview came about.
It's interesting to me that you are connected, have provided some lectures to our friends at Third Age Learning, who were just on the show last week and have been on a number of times. A great opportunity for older adults particularly to take in a seminar, which would have been led by you, learn a little bit. Now that you have formally ended your time lecturing and teaching at the university, Alan, how do you continue to share the knowledge that you have gained over a lifetime?
Well, I've given 3 Third Age Learnings in Waterloo to audiences of up to 800 people, and not quite as high numbers, but certainly 3 additional talks to Third Age Learning in Guelph. I've lectured on board cruise ships, which is a very interesting experience, and also lectured on board some of the expedition ships, for example, circumnavigating Iceland or going up as far as Spitsbergen in the north and down as far as the Antarctic Peninsula in the south.
Places like that must be fascinating for someone in your field or your area of expertise. What's the most interesting place you've been?
Well, very definitely Iceland. I've been back to Iceland about 15 times, leading professional geologists and also student groups, as well as just regular members of the public on 4 or maybe 5 different occasions. But I started going to Iceland when I was 17 years old, and I was fortunate enough to have been chosen as 4 kids from Wales that went on a British Schools Exploring Society expedition to Central Iceland. And there I shared a tent with an Icelandic geologist, Stefan Arnason, who ended up being head of the geology department at the University of Reykjavik. So whenever things popped up in Iceland, like the volcanic eruption on Jaime in 1973, or the volcanic island of Surtsey that came up out of the sea, or indeed the more recent eruption where all transatlantic airfares or air travel was shut down. That was the one in 2010. So I've had plenty of opportunity to see different aspects of the country there in great detail.
Absolutely fascinating. So you mentioned earlier that a meeting with the city of Waterloo yesterday seems to suggest that the city is interested in maintaining and perhaps sprucing up a little bit the Geo-Time Trail as it exists today. Surely that is a relief to you after all of these years and the work that you've put into it.
Yes, I will be very happy to see some work being done on the time trail. I realize that budgetary constraints these days are pretty tough, and certainly the cities have had unexpected expenses passed down by the province, which in turn have had them passed down by the federal government. So it's a bit of a dilemma knowing exactly where this money will come from. But then on the other hand, I hope that the educational experience will be well worth it.
I could not agree more. And it's fantastic, I think, that we have this educational experience right here in our own backyard, thanks to you. Really appreciate you making time for our show today. Thank you very much for being here.
Not at all. Thank you very much, Mike.
Alan Morgan, a professor emeritus in quaternary geology and paleontology from the University of Waterloo, joining us on the show this morning, talking about the Geo-Time Trail in Waterloo. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Wishing I had seen this while Professor Morgan was still in studio. Retired Professor Alan Morgan from the University of Waterloo. But we'll read now an email from a former mayor of the fine city of Waterloo. Writes to Mike at 570news.com. Please say hello and thanks to Professor Morgan. I've always called the Geo-Time Trail one of the hidden gems of our community. It's a great place to walk and explore or cycle. Just last night at a holiday party, a fellow was talking about the hydro cut and the great mountain biking there. However, he's also a trail runner. Of course, I told him about the Geo-Time Trail. About 8 years ago, city staff did tidy up the signage and do some trail work. However, as the trail's name indicates, time marches on. And that from Mayor Dave, former mayor in Waterloo. Appreciate the email, appreciate you checking in with what's going on and reminding us about these hidden gems in our community. Because yes, the Geo-Time Trail, as Professor Morgan and I just discussed, is but one. The hydro cut, another. Of course, we have our bigger, better known trails like the Spur Line, like the Iron Horse. The Huron Natural Area is beautiful. The Walter Bean Trail. Like, we got a lot. All you got to do is either go looking for them or know where they are, and plenty of opportunity to experience the great outdoors. And in the case of the Geo-Time Trail, learn yourself a little something along the way too. It's fascinating stuff. I am continually, I mean this sincerely, in awe of the innovative and intelligent people we have in this community who are so anxious and eager to share that knowledge with the rest of us. Geo-Time Trail in the western part of Waterloo is just one example of that. All right, Thursday mornings, 11:30, right after our 570 news update is what? The Flipside. And we got a call yesterday from one of you who said, I think you should do this on the Flipside tomorrow. Well, tomorrow is now today, and your wish is our command. The greatest Christmas song ever is... We'll do it on the Flipside coming up. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers. I'll take you back to yesterday afternoon on the show. During our 12 o'clock Talkback Hour, our buddy Mark called up had this to say.
Secondly, Mike, I got a suggestion for you.
Sure.
You do the Flipside every Thursday at 11:30, right?
Yes, sir.
Christmas is coming, Mike.
Yes.
How about the best Christmas songs of all time?
Ooh, the best Christmas songs of all time. You know what, Mark? Not a bad idea.
I'd like to hear everybody's opinion on that one.
Well, Mark, your wish is our command. You will get to hear everybody's opinion on that one because everybody not only listens to this show, but calls this show, right? That's the way it works. Anyway, far be it from me to not take a suggestion from you. And it's a good one. So Mark wants to know the best Christmas song ever. Or we could also just say your particular favorite. 519-570-2545. Star 570, 1-800-570-5715.
Of a white Christmas, just like the one.
I mean, it's really hard to beat Bing, isn't it? It wouldn't be Christmas without a little bit of White Christmas. For me, my favorite has always been Silver Bells, and it remains my favorite to this day. Because I go back to elementary school, Mrs. Landry, oh boy, am I getting it wrong? Was it Mrs. Howe's class? I think it was Mrs. Howe's class. Forgive me. I think it was grade 7, not grade 8. Regardless, one of those years, either Mrs. Landry or Mrs. Howe got our class somehow able to go to, I can say the radio station's name because it's not even in existence anymore. It was actually another AM radio station in town. We used to have more AM radio stations. We're the only one left. 1090. And we got to go there and we got to sing Silver Bells on the radio. Biggest thrill ever. Maybe it's Mrs. Howe's and or Mrs. Landry's fault that I'm doing this now because that gave me the radio bug. I got bit that day. I don't know. But we would practice it. We rehearsed in class and then we got to go to the radio station and perform the song. I think Tino Monte was the announcer too, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, loved it then, love it to this day. Just takes me back to all of that effort that we youngsters put into learning the song and then performing the song, and it got to go on the radio, and it was the greatest thrill ever. So I will always default to Silver Bells as my favorite Christmas song, but a little bit of White Christmas by Bing never hurt no one. And emailing Paul, shockingly, emails to Mike at 570news.com. I Believe in Father Christmas by the supergroup Emerson, Lake and Palmer. So not exactly traditional with ELP, but why not? And listen, if you want to get into Emerson, Lake and Palmer or other groups and or artists like them doing Christmas music, then give me Bruce Springsteen and inject him into my veins because he does Christmas music really well. Let's get to the phones and hear from you, Nate Dogg. Best Christmas song ever is?
I want to say it's I Am Santa Claus by Bob Rivers.
But you want to say that, but what are you going to say instead? Sorry, I was waiting for the other shoe to drop.
I also like another one by a Bob Noxious out of London, and it's called The Police Nabbed My Dad. Obviously, non-traditional Christmas stuff, but I drive my family nuts every year by playing a lot of Bob Rivers and a lot of Bob Noxious just for poops and giggles, I guess you could say.
All right, so some Bob Noxious or some Bob Rivers?
Yeah. Did I hear correct that you're off next Friday?
Maybe.
Okay. So tomorrow will be the last All Request Friday before the holidays.
Yes.
I think we should roll with Mark's thing, and everybody should call in with their favorite Christmas songs tomorrow, and we can just fill the air with holly jolly.
All right, Nate Dogg, appreciate the call. Not a bad idea. All Request Friday tomorrow. It could be the All Christmas All Request Friday. Hell, maybe I'll do All Request Thursday next week. You just never know. This show is like Forrest Gump's box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Chris, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And you?
I'm doing very well.
Good. What's the best Christmas song ever?
Well, I think it's an entire album, and
Okay.
I think Michael Bublé owns Christmas these days.
I feel similarly, yes.
Now, I do want to inject a little more Canadiana, and most people have not heard of who Classified is. Do you know who Classified is? He was the one
Oh, yeah, he's a rapper, yeah?
Yeah. With Canada. He has a very family-related, it's called The Bells Are Ringing.
Okay.
And it is very classic. It fits in with the Bings. It fits in with the Dean Martin Christmases. It's very crooner, but at the same time, he's got the little hip-hop feel to it.
All right, so Classified, the whole Classified Christmas album.
No. Michael Bublé owns the Christmas.
Oh, Michael Bublé owns the Christmas, but you like a little Classified mixed in.
Yes.
Okay. I got you. Chris, appreciate the call.
Thank you.
Thank you. Glad you're signaling that turn as well, because I can hear it clickety-clacking in the background. I apologize if I was a wee bit distracted. I was trying to find, because I think Sean, I'm trying to go off the top of my head now, because I think Sean tweeted it at me. Please feel free to send emails anytime, mike@570news.com. You can use the X thing, the X Factor, or the Twitter machine, whatever we're calling it these days, at Farwell_WR. Oh, good, I found it. My at Farwell_WR has been a little bit busy lately, and I couldn't find Sean's Christmas song quickly, but I've got it now because he tweeted me or X'd me 11 hours ago. I have to take my dad shopping tomorrow, so please acknowledge this as one of the best Christmas songs, as I won't be able to call in. Sean, I appreciate you being ahead of the game and doing this. Side note, my mom always loved the Boney M Christmas CD, but the song that Sean wants acknowledged as one of the best Christmas songs is a Charlie Brown Christmas by the Vince Guaraldi Trio. So there you go. O Tannenbaum, the song from the Charlie Brown Christmas album, is Sean's favorite. I hope shopping goes well with your dad. And please, somebody, if you don't mind, could you explain the Boney M thing to me? Because I think I have a hard time just getting past the group name. But anyway, I don't know. Maybe I'm not Christmassy enough for Boney M. I'm Bing Crosby. I'm Bruce Springsteen if it's rock and roll. You know, Christmas songs done by rock musicians. And, of course, I am Silver Bells for the reasons I already shared. Getting a chance as a kid to sing a song on the radio, that was a really big deal. Billboard, as you probably will not be surprised, has its own list of the very best Christmas songs. In fact, it's got its top 100. And the Trans-Siberian Orchestra's Christmas Eve Sarajevo is number 100. If that's number 100, I would love to know what is number one, because that song is awesome. Johnny Mathis's The Sounds of Christmas in at 97. Britney Spears makes 95. Okay, I'm done with the Billboard list. By request from Mark, he wants to know what the best Christmas song ever is. He wants to hear your favorite Christmas song. That's our Flipside question for you today on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I just threw that in there to confuse Devin.
Hang all the mistletoe, I'm gonna get to know you better.
There you go. I can't mix it very well because I only have one computer with no mixing board. And I completely threw the curveball at Devin Robertson, our guy on the other side of the glass. He's like, what is happening? Where is that other music coming from? Huh? I got buttons I can push over here too, pal. Exactly. That's number 10 on Billboard's Best Christmas Songs list. Donny Hathaway's This Christmas.
This Christmas, and as we trim the tree, how much fun it's gonna be together.
There you go, Donny Hathaway. I'll get to the rest of that top 10 because it's a pretty darn fine list, if I do say so myself. But we want to hear from you on the flip side this morning what you think is the best Christmas song ever. 519-570-2545, star 570, 1-800-570-5715. Mark, good morning.
Chestnuts roasting over an open fire.
Oh, not over. I don't even know lyrics that well, but it's on an open fire.
Jack Frost nipping at your nose.
Yes.
I like that one, Mike. I'm not sure who does it, though.
You know what, Mark? It doesn't matter. You just did it. That is Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire by Mark. Good job, buddy.
Thanks, Mike, and I really enjoy your segment.
Thanks, buddy. I really appreciate that. Mark made the suggestion yesterday, and he took it to a new level today. Not only calling in with his favorite Christmas song, but singing a little bit for us. Greg, what about you? You want to sing some Christmas music to us?
No, that would scare too many people.
All right. I am contractually obligated to not sing on the radio also, so I will not, but...
All right, put my name underneath your signature, and I'm good there, too. So
good stuff.
Yeah, and I got it. You want to keep listeners, don't you? So.
I'm trying as hard as I can, buddy.
Yeah, I think we've scared enough away over time. Anyhow, this one, most people won't have heard of. It's my style anyways. Yeah, probably only find it on YouTube, but look for a band called Bob Noxious and look for their song called The Police Nabbed My Dad.
Greg, did you literally just tune in? Because that came up like 10 minutes ago.
I literally did just tune in. Really?
That's funny. Yes, Bob Noxious, The Police Nabbed My Dad.
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay.
Let me guess. Now that I say that out loud, it's got to be a riff on Feliz Navidad, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I got you.
It's almost something like Big Al might do or something like that. But
yep.
The band's, yeah. All right, well, since somebody else stole my thunder there, but yeah, I did just get in the truck to start my deliveries. Twisted Sister's version of "Oh Come All You Faithful."
Oh my gosh!
Look for that one. It's a nice mix of that, and We're Not Going to Take It. It's beautifully done.
I will for sure.
Yeah, look for YouTube. It's there.
All right, Greg. Thanks for that. You know what? This is so random, but I had Twisted Sister on the brain the other day. I was going to say I have no idea why. I loved them as a kid, and forgive me, but the song was SMF, as in Santa meets Father Christmas. And I'm like, wow, that was actually a song on an album that I had on cassette when I was a kid. You're an SMF. I hope I can still say that on the radio. Times were different back in the 1980s, let me tell you. But Twisted Sister, I love it. Back to the phones. Sean, good morning.
Good morning. Don't ask me to sing this.
Okay.
My favorite Christmas song was Snoopy's Christmas by the Royal Guardsmen.
Really?
Remember O Tannenbaum, O Tannenbaum?
And that's when, was that when Snoopy battled the Red Baron?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
And you could hear the Christmas bells from the town below.
Absolutely. And then Merry Christmas, my friend. And then they flew off.
Snoopy dead in his sights.
Yep.
He reached for the trigger to pull it up tight.
Yep.
Why he didn't shoot, we'll never know.
Maybe it was the bells from the village below.
Village below.
Christmas. Yes.
Yeah, that's my favorite one.
You know what, Sean? Excellent choice. Excellent choice by you. I like it. Phil, good morning.
Good morning. 60 plus years ago, as a little boy.
You were not 60 plus years ago. Settle down. 70 plus years ago, you were a little boy.
Christmas cookies. She was playing her Mitch Miller Christmas album.
I love it.
However, mine is River by Sarah McLachlan, and it's even done better by Jim Cuddy.
No kidding, eh? That's your
Joni
favorite.
Mitchell, Chestnut.
Joni Mitchell made 17 on the Billboard 100 list.
Yeah. River.
All right, Phil.
Thanks.
Thank you. I was teasing Phil a little bit there because I know Phil. He just wanted to get to the point, and I should be better at letting people do that. I had to tease Phil a little bit. 60 years ago, he was a little boy. 80 years ago, Phil was a little boy. Debbie sends an email to Mike at 570news.com. Love this one, Debbie. Fairy Tale of New York by the Pogues. Hands down, she says. Excellent choice. Father Christmas by the Kinks, says Michael. Can I call you Mike? Because I find Michael, I don't love Michael. I like Mike. But anyway, Michael wants, or says, Father Christmas by the Kinks is his favorite. Another Sean, these are all via email. Did I say that part? I probably skipped over it. Merry Christmas, Everybody by Slade. Good choice there, Sean. Al, via email to Mike at 570news.com. The Christmas Hippo, Gayla Peavy. That came in as one of our requests during All Request Fridays recently. I don't know about that. But anyway, if it's your favorite, it's your favorite. I know the novelty songs, like Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer. They can be fun. Russell via email, 2,000 Miles by the Pretenders, not to be confused with 500 Miles by the Proclaimers. 2,000 Miles by the Pretenders. Kathy's email says her favorite Christmas song is Christmas Island. There are many versions, but I am partial to Jimmy Buffett's for sentimental reasons. I like it. Good job by you. Marino, Jesus Boy Child. There's Boney M again, and I get it. I don't dislike them. I just have a hard time thinking Boney M screams Christmas. Bing Crosby screams Christmas. But anyway, great choice by you, Marino. Matt says you cannot beat this one, and it is Christmas Time is Here on the Charlie Brown Christmas with, of course, again, Vince Guaraldi. So good job. Andrew also likes the Pogues, Fairy Tale of New York. Ron, oh, wait. He hates Christmas music because he worked in retail for 5 years, heard all the bad songs. No, Ron, no. You got to just get in the Christmas spirit. I've actually told our colleagues, I mean this, at Chime 96.7, that they bring joy. Now, I'm not the one that is in the studio all day because they play all Christmas music for a month leading up to Christmas. But I know that every time I need some, I'm going to find it, Christmas music, on Chime 96.7. And when I walk the halls here at the radio station and I hear some Christmas music, as I did during the last commercial break, I love it. I played for you a little bit of the number 10 song on Billboard's list of best Christmas songs. Donny Hathaway, This Christmas. At number 9 on Billboard's list of the best, how about my buddy Bruce Springsteen, Santa Claus is Coming to Town. At number 8, Run DMC with Christmas in Hollis. Again, not necessarily my cup of tea, but not bad. Number 7, not The Police Nabbed My Dad, but actually Jose Feliciano's Feliz Navidad. Number 6, Brenda Lee's Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree. You know that's a good one. In fact, Brenda Lee, turning 80, is getting a party thrown for her by the record company because Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree goes back on the charts every year since its release in 1958. Brenda Lee's Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree, number 6 on Billboard magazine's Best 100 Christmas Songs. At number 5, my boy Bing with White Christmas. Number 4, Wham's Last Christmas, which is excellent. At number 3, The Christmas Song by Nat King Cole. At number 2, Christmas Baby Please Come Home, Darlene Love. And is there any surprise whatsoever at number 1?
I don't want a lot for Christmas. There is just one thing I need. I don't care about the presents underneath the Christmas tree. I just want you for my own, more than you could ever know. Make my wish come true.
Mariah Carey, number one. This is the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio, Rogers TV. And directly to the 570 News Center. I ran a little long listening to Mariah Carey, but who wouldn't want to listen to that woman sing? Girl's got a voice. Open lines on your 12 o'clock Talkback Hour is coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage outside, or you don't go out Friday night.
Don't talk back.
And thus we begin your 12 o'clock Talkback Hour here on the program. You just heard a story in that noon update. Premier Ford talking tough. We're going to clear out those encampments. We're enhancing the powers for police and municipalities legislatively. Not talking about the notwithstanding clause, but still talking about homelessness. And perhaps the argument could be made, I might be inclined to make it, devaluing the human that is living in the encampment. You can go somewhere else. We just don't want to see you here, is kind of the idea. And look, I get it completely from the other side of this, too. Nobody wants to or intends to devalue the human being living in the tent. But many of you are saying, hang on, I got a business to run next door, and this is negatively impacting my business. I've got a park that I want to visit with my kids, and I don't feel comfortable in that park. These are incredible challenges in our community today. Maybe you want to weigh in on that. And of course, as I gaze out yonder window at a nice, clear, blue sky at 6 minutes past noon, I'm still wondering, I've been wondering for 6 hours now, why in HE double hockey sticks we canceled school buses today. Listen, I get the liability. That's the overriding concern here, but come on with your coming on. This is 3 times already. 3 times already this year, and we have not even reached the start of astrological winter, whatever they call it, astronomical. It's not winter yet, okay? It's not winter yet. We didn't get snow until November the 30th. That's when our first snow appeared. 12 days later, 3 school bus cancellations. What a joke. All right, to the phones we go, and Jersey Bill will start us off. Afternoon, Billy.
Hey, well, I know I just caught that last minute of that game the other night, and that was a great minute to have caught.
Oh, yes, when my Leafs beat your Devils. But you were cheering for the Leafs.
They're not my Devils, you know. Like I say, I have no rooting interest in that team. I went to one game, and they lost 4-0, and they didn't even show up. That was like 30 years ago, so... But listen, I one thing it struck me as you're talking about the Christmas songs.
Yes.
And, there was one I learned in a school choir, and I still like it. And this is the way it goes. Es ist ein Rosenschwungen aus seinen Wurzelsaat, wie uns die Alten sungen, von Jessikum die Art. Und hat ein Blümlein bragt mitten im kalten Winter, wo los in den halben Nacht. I couldn't choose a place. That's how it goes mainly. And what struck me about that song, and also when you think of Silent Night, I have to think of my German heritage, and one has to think. They were at their best when they accepted this religion that wasn't from them, and there were religious wars and all as well, but when they accepted things from the outside, and in a sense could even make them a little better, that was good. When they made too much of themselves. And when they thought they could take over the world, that's when the bad side of the Germans came out. So that just sort of struck me as I remembered that song.
Billy, thank you for that. Thank you for serenading us. Thank you for invoking a little bit of German into Christmas. I am a fiercely proud person of German heritage, although my beloved continues to tease me that I'm not really German enough to claim that. I don't know. I've never traced the entire tree, but I think about 25%. Anyway, it's more of anything else that's in me. And I tried to prove it to her last night. I crushed a few beers, but she's still not buying that I'm German. I don't know what to do about it, but gosh darn it, I'll put that pickle in the tree. You know I will put that pickle in the tree. I will enjoy some sausage and some kraut, and I will enjoy a nice German Pilsner. Andre, you are on the Talkback Hour. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. Now I know why Bill retired from the Army. He's singing at night.
That's right. He's got a side hustle now. That's right. Go see him in your favorite Legion.
I want to call a couple things. I'll make it quick. It's going to be really busy today and tomorrow. About the Christmas song. To me, it's like you were talking, Mike, about the old big old furniture, and my mom, well, she had the 8-track, and she had all these big boxes of albums, vinyl of Elvis Presley, and I wasn't allowed to touch them, but she would play that, and it was always stuck in my head. Blue
Yep,
Christmas.
I knew that's I was thinking the same one, Andre. Excellent choice. Yeah.
And mine, you say you always want to be in my head, but you beat me to it all the time. It's like, you little brat. But my favorite is by Band Aid. When they sing together, because George Michael is in it. I love George Michael, and I laugh because you say there's a George Michael at Rogers too.
George Michaels, yes, famous, the most famous radio DJ to ever work in this city.
Okay.
No disrespect to anybody else, but everybody knows that George was king.
Okay. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about, of course, Mary Carey, she's the voice of the voice, I even said to me. But anyway, I get to my point about your show. I said it before years ago in Montreal when the European came in a lot from all over the place. They started building triplex and quadruplex, and I live a lot in there, and it was very helpful. And for Dorothy McCabe, that I have so much love and respect for, of her ideas and ambitious, doing that is going to be a really good idea. I wish I had the money to do that, but for us, it's not a priority. But I think it's a great idea.
All right, Andre, thank you very much. You have a good day, too. Sorry, I had to cut for time. Andre bounced around from favorite Christmas songs to the story we talked about on the show earlier, City of Waterloo, approving four-story fourplexes on residential lots across the city. It's your 12 o'clock Talkback Hour on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. And the Talkback Hour is your chance to start the conversation. If it's important to you, we want to hear about it. Right back to the phones. Walter, good afternoon.
How's it going today, Mike?
Good, thanks, Walter. How are you?
I'm doing okay, buddy boy. Listen, I have a solution for all of these cancellations of the buses because I'm a little deep off. Like every Tuesday and Thursday is when the high schools in the region hold their girls' volleyball game. And so far, counting today, they've had to reschedule 2 of them because, like the buses have been canceled, and I have a solution. Why not start school in, April or May and run it until, September or October, and then you won't have to worry about any school buses being canceled. They can have the whole winter off, and, hang on a sec. It might rain in that period, so they might have to cancel them if it rains. So I don't know if that'll work, but I'm cheap rate off, Mike.
I get you, Walter. A lot of people are, and I think it's understandable. This is an absolute embarrassment that you would cancel school buses on a day like today. There is zero reason to cancel them. You know, the other thing that strikes me, because I've heard a few people suggest, let's just shift the school year so you can avoid the inclement weather. Remember, we now live in an age where it's been declared too hot to go to school because not all schools are equipped with air conditioning. So I don't know how we square this circle, but I don't think we're putting enough emphasis on the academic progress of our kids. That's my take on it. Terry, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Mike. A couple Christmas songs here. The ones I know it's probably, it's not the greatest, but my preference would be "Christmas" by The Who from the Tommy album. I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
I am not familiar with that one. I love The Who, though.
It's called "Christmas," and then "Thank God It's Christmas" by Queen, and then "It's Christmas Time" by Band-Aid. Those would be my three favorite. But Mike, I know on this winter thing, I'd rather have 30 centimeters of snow falling with no wind than have a day like today, because some outlying areas you get that wind blowing across and blowing that snow through the highway, that causes like more treacherous conditions than actual snowfall.
For sure.
That's probably why they canceled the buses.
But Terry, there's so little snow out there right now. Like, you're getting streamers. You're not getting whiteouts. Like, come on.
Where you're sitting, but go 10 miles north or 10 miles east or west. I bet you go to Stratford. I'm sure they're getting a ton of snow because they're getting those squalls.
Well, but listen, Stratford is not Waterloo region, my friend. Buses canceled in Waterloo region.
New Hamburg's damn close to Stratford, and they're Waterloo region, aren't they?
New Hamburg is Waterloo region, yes. So maybe
they get snow there too.
Maybe what we need, Terry, maybe we need school bus zones, and we can cancel in some zones, but not all zones. What do you think of that?
I have thought of that, Mike. And the thing is, a lot of I know when I went to high school, a lot of kids were bussed in from out in the country, like Flamborough, which is quite a distance from South Cambridge. So that could be a condition too. Okay, you cancel the buses from the outlying areas. Let's say even 30-40% of students come from those areas, and then you're going to have half an empty school. So, I used to walk to school, which wasn't a problem for me, but I didn't have to go far distances either, like a mile here, a mile there. But I think they're thinking about the outlying areas where
they're thinking, Terry, don't kid yourself. They're thinking about liability. We all know that.
True, I agree with you there. But it's also, what's the point of having a school open with half of the students there too? So I get it, Mike. I'm just telling you, I'd rather have a lot of snow with no wind than little snow with a lot of wind. That's my preference.
For sure.
Drive on it anyway. Okay. Have a good day, Mike.
Thanks, Terry. You too. What's the point of having a school open if only half the kids are there? That's why the schools are basically neutered today. They're pretty much useless because you're not busing in the kids to get bussed in. It's just, and so why not? There's only a few instructional days left before Christmas. Let's just throw today out with the trash too. Francis, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. Remember when I told you to suck it up with the snow?
Probably.
But anyways, we'll get away from that. My favorite song is Silent Night. And when you talked about the buses being canceled and people should take their kids in cars, well, we know that is absolutely crazy. Now, it brought back memories. When they canceled the school bus from that headed into Walkerton, like we always walked to school up and down both sides of the hills into Formosa. And I remember my brother and I, when they canceled the bus, we made sure we got to school because it was a holiday for us on the farm. And one time we walked another set of brothers who were from the farm a lot further away. We walked them home so they'd get home safe. And I figured at a total mileage, we walked well over 4 miles, not kilometers. And the snowbanks were close to the hydro wires. And you know what? We had fun.
Of course you did. It can be, absolutely.
So, it's all in attitude.
It certainly is, Francis. I appreciate the phone call. And look, I'm always reluctant. Well, back in my day, we walked uphill both ways and all we had for boots was boxes of tissue. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that factually, today was a ridiculous day, an utterly ridiculous day to cancel the school buses. I guarantee you they made this decision last night. It might be blowing snow tomorrow. Boom, calling it off. Ridiculous. Anyway, 12 o'clock Talkback Hour. You get a chance to have your say on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. It sure does, and the Talkback Hour is when we hear directly from you. Back to the phones. Ola, good afternoon.
Hello, Mr. Farwell.
Hello.
Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you for making it.
Yeah, so this is my personal conspiracy theory about cancellations with the school bus.
Okay.
So if you remember, I think it's about the first big snow wave we got earlier on this month.
Yeah.
There was an accident with a school bus. I think it was a senior, one of the elderly drivers that was driving it with the iron. I think immediately that happened, ever since then, any little weather issue, they cancel. I have a feeling that experience is making the bus people, a bit finicky and skeptical about, going out. I have a feeling that's got something to do with it.
I think you're right. They are very concerned about being sued if something bad goes wrong. There's no question.
And I drive Uber. I can tell you today I have been to Stratford. I've been further. I've been all around the region. It's no reason. The weather today is no reason to cancel. I can tell you that.
Ola, I appreciate the call and the outlook on outlying areas. I'm with you, obviously, but I am only looking out my window here from the studio in Kitchener. But canceling buses today is just preposterous. Lisa, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Talking about Christmas songs, my new favorite Christmas song is by a band called King and Country, and it's the Little Drummer Boy. They are maybe considered Christian rock, but there's a version, if you Google it, called Live in Phoenix, and the drums in it are just amazing. My son's a drummer, so anything that's got drums is really attracts me. It's a very, very catchy, very upbeat version. So that'd be my pick for that. And when you're talking about weather, my best when I was a kid story would be my dad never liked to clear out the lane. So when you were leaving in the winter, you had to back up Barnhill and then take a run at the lane and hope there was nothing on the road when you got there. So today's just a beautiful day. I mean, I learned to drive when I was 16 in the winter, and I think my mom and dad were very glad that everyone made it through that, but it made a big difference for how we were able to drive once the weather was bad. So anyway, have a good day. Everyone take care.
You too, Lisa. Thanks for that. Yes, stay safe. And we talked about this earlier. I know it's not the driver's fault. They don't make the decision to put the buses on the road or not. But it really does leave one to wonder how much experience, if any, these drivers have. Because, I mean, man, let me tell you a little bit about Mike the Moose Reeves, okay, and some of the stuff that we've driven through with the hockey club in order to get to games or home from games. These are experienced, qualified drivers. I'm sure our bus drivers are the same. They can handle a day like today and then some. It's your 12 o'clock Talkback Hour, the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. Okay, fasten your seatbelts, because here he comes. And he's always coming in hot. You never know what he's going to say or how many things he's going to say in one phone call. But he is as consistent on the 12 o'clock Talkback Hour as a school bus cancellation when the temperature drops below zero. I'm talking about our boy, Grant. Oh, Grant is here. Maybe we would cancel Grant because of weather. What if we did that, Grant?
That's kind of funny. Your intro.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, that I'm going to touch on your Christmas songs. I'm not too sure who sings it, but she does a sexy version of it.
I'm sorry, pardon?
It's where...
Santa Baby.
Yeah, that one.
How did I know? You see that? You see what just happened there? Devin Robertson, our guy on the other side of the glass, is loving it. It's what you get for 29 years experience there, Dev. It's a sexy Christmas song. Boom.
And I like that.
Santa Baby.
I like the...
I thought he said sexy virgin, though. I was getting really nervous. No. Okay.
I like his... the other fellow that called in yesterday about... Oh, yeah, getting these prank calls. Because I know
what
I get...
prank calls? Nobody called it. Grant, first of all, why are you talking about yesterday? That was yesterday. This is today.
Yeah, well...
And we didn't talk about prank calls yesterday.
No, someone called in to say, and I...
Oh, Paul was, scamming the scammers.
Yeah, because I always get this person that calls me to say, we're working for Rogers. So what do you have for service?
Well, that's not a scam. They call you to check in on your services and see if they can provide you something better.
And then I ask him, well, you tell me what do I have? And he said, and then he asks me again, so do you have Rogers? Well, you tell me, what do I have? You should know, because I've been with you for such a long time. And he hangs up. So it shows you that that could be a scam too, right?
Okay.
You sound like you're lost.
No, I sound like what?
You sound like you're lost.
Well, I'm a little bit lost, Grant. I'm sorry. That's what happens when I listen to your phone calls sometimes. I love you like a brother. I'm trying to keep it all straight. And I do know that the company, the parent company of this radio station, does have people who work in departments that will phone you and see if they can offer something better than what you currently have. So I am reluctant, shockingly, to in any way suggest that a phone call that you get from this company would be a scam, because I don't believe that it would be. So always be on alert. That's a good, I think, way of a good takeaway from Grant's call today, which was referring to something from yesterday, which automatically puts me behind the eight ball because I've already moved on to today. And Dave is here with us now to move on with today's show. Afternoon, Dave.
Good afternoon, Mike. First of all, up front, I'm not a professional driver, never have been, and never will be. And I'm retired. And I've never in my life have had snow tires.
Oh, never even had snow tires.
However,
yes, sir.
In the winter of 2005, I was driving up in the wintertime on a regular basis to Kirkland Lake. And again, I never had snow tires. And I came on the bypass out of Kirkland Lake to get back on the main drag. And roads, I knew the roads were bad, but I didn't know how bad because I couldn't pick up the radio signals. And so I was coming up a slight incline to the real road, and I had to make a left. And there was a OPP car right behind me. And there's a big stop sign before you enter that main road. And I was doing quick looks up and down the highway. There was no cars on the road, no trucks. And I turned around and I was slowly making up. And I didn't even make a phantom stop. I just didn't stop. And I pulled through and continued on and made my way to Elliott Lake. And I pulled in and I had to stop for a coffee because my knuckles were white. Heard the roads were closed. And that OPP car that was right behind me, he spun his tires and his car rolled back and he couldn't make it up the hill. And I had summer tires. It was a 3-cylinder car.
Dave, you're making a great story out of this. It's like everything was working against you, but you survived and lived to tell the tale.
Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. The moral of the story: put snow tires on your car. Please, for the love of all things holy, put snow tires on your car. They should be mandatory. They should be mandatory. Sean, you're on the Talkback Hour. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I think I get what Grant was talking about when he was talking about the calls from Rogers. Okay. I get them too. And so you get these rather strange calls from Rogers. They ask you, do you have Rogers? And honestly, they sound like a scam call. You're thinking, shouldn't these people know exactly what I have and what I need? And they sound just like the scammer calls. And you're like of a mind just hang up on them or tell them really rude things. And I really don't think Rogers has thought this through in today's environment. Like, you just don't make strange calls to people, asking them what they want or what they need, because you're thinking they should know this. If you're a customer, they should know exactly what you have already. It's just weird, honestly.
All right, Sean, appreciate the call. I hope my corporate masters are listening. you might want to change your approach when calling customers to see if you can help them with better services. I can tell you two things. Number one is I've always loved my Rogers service. I'm not just saying that. I've always loved it. Number two is I've never actually had a call. Maybe they're like, if we call that Farwell guy, he'll never shut up. I will for just a minute, though, and then we'll come back with more of your calls. Because if it's important to you, we want to hear about it on the 12 o'clock Talkback Hour. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio. The Talkback Hour is your opportunity to start the conversation. What's on your mind? What do you want us to know about? Make that call. We'll answer. The conversation begins there. Let's go next to Brandon. Brandon, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. Thanks for taking the call. First-time caller.
Oh, I love me some first-time callers, Brandon. Thank you very much for being here.
Yes! I'm going to try and put a little bit of twist on your most favorite song of the season.
Okay.
I'm going to give you my least favorite song of the season.
Okay.
It is The Most Wonderful Time of the Year. And my reply to that is, no, it's not. Other than hockey, that's the only good thing about the season. the days are short. It's normally bleak and grey. Normally, but anyway, not today. People are a mess, thinking about how much debt they're going to go into. And it's going to be like this for about at least the next 2.5 to 3.5 months. So what the heck is the most favourite time of the year got to do with this type of nonsense that we live through? And I'm a good Canadian, believe it or not.
Oh, I believe it. I absolutely believe it because you are spot on, my friend. Spot on. So let me ask you, what is then the most wonderful time of the year?
When I can swing a club.
Attaboy. Attaboy.
Yeah.
Good job. Brandon, great to hear from you on the show. Thanks very much. And Merry Christmas anyway, okay?
All the best to you and your family, Mike. Thanks for taking the call. I'll call back soon when I've got something grumpy to talk about. Even more grumpy.
I love it. That's perfect. Thank you. I just went down to the hall into the newsroom during that commercial break, mainly because there are cookies there. And if you want to know why I think it's the most wonderful time of year, it's because there is always an ample supply of baked goods nearby. I can get behind that idea. But one of our reporters was saying that she was out interviewing somebody for a story today, and her interview guest wanted to send regards because he loves me, loves the show. And I said, well, of course he does, because everybody loves angry little men. So, Brandon, you are welcome, grumpy or grumpier, on this show anytime. Because deep down, you see, some people will just cluck their lips at us. Tisk, tisk. You guys, you grumpy old guys, you grumpy old ladies. But they know we're right. They know we're right. You don't cancel school buses on a day like today. You don't tax people at a 51% increase year over year. You don't do things like that. It's what Wilmot is thinking it's going to do, but it's not. We're not going to. Wilmot Council will not allow a budget with a 51% increase to pass, right? Wilmot Township Council, right. Another budget that's being deliberated, and it feels like this budget deliberation has been going on for close to 100 years already. And once again, this is exactly what happened last year on the final day for the regional budget. It was too chaotic. It was this, it was that. There was too much coming in last minute. We're going to change the process so that it's better. And what happened again yesterday? This is a mess. This is chaos. We have to put a pause on this. We can't make any decisions today. Don't blame them. Ding-dang meeting went on for like 16 hours. So regional council will meet again next week. But I don't want this from regional councillor and Kitchener Mayor Barry Verbanovic to get lost in the shuffle, because I think Councillor Verbanovic is spot on with this idea. He took a look at the numbers and then he suggested what they should do with those numbers. This is for our regional budget.
In our budget books, there's 9 departmental areas that exists: community services, transportation, engineering and environmental, planning, development and legislative, public health and paramedics, elected offices, CAO, corporate services, and human resources. I actually went and did an analysis of a number of expense areas. Supplies expense overall went up 5.7% in the organization, and ranging anywhere between 0% and 15.2% by department. Equipment went 26.2% overall. Facilities maintenance went up 32.2%. Professional fees and services went up 5.8% overall. Communications saw a 16.9% increase overall. Travel saw a 21.8% increase, and facility occupancy charges saw a 15.8% increase overall. All of that, when averaged out, came to 9.32%, or $17.2 million. That is significantly more than what inflation, even the 1 or the 2-year average is. And so what I've done is bring it down to 5%, which would ultimately give us a savings of $8,008. And the whole point here is I'm not looking to go into the detail today, because we have professional staff who have a responsibility to do that, work through that, and so on. I'm simply saying this is the amount that we're going to reduce it by. This is what the motion says, and it'll be up to staff to figure out how they're going to make those adjustments within those categories.
Is it just me, or is Councillor Verbanovic onto something here? Your increase for your particular department is 3.5%, 4.5%, 5%, whatever. Set that number up front and let them figure out how to meet that number. You might just start coming up with a budget full of needs as opposed to a budget full of wants. This is your 12 o'clock Talkback Hour on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. And let's get right on with things. Another first-time caller joining the show.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
That is how we introduce Doug to the program. Hello, Doug.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for taking my call. I got a couple of points. I'll go quick. If you live in the United States long enough, you'll meet or be associated to famous people. I had a fiance when I lived in Houston whose dentist wrote Jingle Bell Rock. I think Ford should go a lot harder on his retaliation threat. He should call it a declaration of war. Even though you're not using weapons of war, he's using weapons against the economy, which would destroy our country and make it easy for him to take over. He should say, unless you withdraw this by Christmas Eve, we're going to do what he threatened to do by shutting off the lights of Detroit and going forward. The premier from Alberta should do the same with holding oil shipments, which is 60% of the total of America imports for use, and say, unless you do that by the day before New Year's, we're going to go forward, because there's a million trucks on the road, and everything you wear, eat, or possess came on a truck. You would shut down the economy because nothing would get to where it needed to go. That's a serious threat. He's serious about taking over Canada. And he could, because the economy would be destroyed with these duties.
All right, Doug. Appreciate the call. I don't think Donald Trump is serious about taking over Canada at all. But you know what? We'll talk about it on our Friday 4 roundtable tomorrow between 11 and noon. Uncle Rob, he's laughing at Doug. That's talk radio gold, Rob.
I forgot what I was calling about.
We're going to war, baby. We're going to war.
Oh, Lordy. Anyway, listen, just a quick one, Mike. The kid had a great game last night, 2 assists and third star. So he's really cooking over there with the Wild. Now, I was looking up. He was playing with a guy who got a hat trick on his line, Brendan Gaunt.
Former OHLer, I believe, a Belleville Bull back in the day.
Look at you. You're just a walking OHL encyclopedia. I looked it up, 2010 to 2014 with the Bulls, and he's... and then he was with the Erie for a little bit, so they were probably gearing up for a run or something in 2013, 2014.
There you go.
But he's played with the Canucks, the Bruins, had a little more time with the Blue Jackets up and down. So, it's interesting when you get into the AHL situation, you're running into a lot of NHL contracts too. But he looked pretty good last night. I saw some of the replays because, as you know, I couldn't watch the game, but I saw some of the replays, and he had a nice little drop pass to set him up on that second goal. So, anyway, good night for the kid. Just want to let all the fans in Kitchener know that he's working hard at it, and so far, so good.
Rob, appreciate the update. Enjoy the rest of your day, sir.
Yeah, and hey, let's. Do I got to dig a bunker or something now, or what's?
It's your choice, but we're going to war.
I'll see you later. Bye.
Take care, Rob. Bye-bye. Matt Sopp, former Kitchener Ranger, Kitchener kid with the Iowa Wild in the American Hockey League. 2 assists last night. Got to get you to the news center for an update. Got to get you to Ottawa for Rob Snow. He's standing by with Now You Know. Devin Robertson, our guy on the other side of the glass. My name is Mike Farwell. Bye for now.